Thank you, Beth and Rip. Very telling, very telling. Many of you saw our video tease where Reverend Ann says that when she was 17, her piano teacher killed her father. Did you see that? Who saw that? Let me see armpits. Okay. Well, how many of you think that's true? Let me see armpits on that one. Only a few. Okay. Well, the truth is about to come out. The truth spoken by a minister, no less. So with that, will you please welcome Minister Reverend Ann Mason.
I'm Ann Mason, and I'm going to tell you about a lie. I know that some of you came hoping I'd tell some salacious secrets that I wouldn't dare to tell on a Sunday morning sermon, but that's not the case. I was the youngest of three, and then my little sister came along, so I was the third of four girls growing up in Pennsylvania. My dad was in the Naval Reserve, and we loved it when he would go flying on the weekend, and he would come back, and he would tip his wings as he flew over the house. My sisters, as you can probably tell, were all about riding horses, but not me. I was about everything, about music and theater and dance. When I was 5 years old, I started taking piano lessons with my best friend's mom down the street, and I learned to read notes and read words at about the same time. It was really very efficient. When I was in sixth grade, our family moved to Clinton, New York. I know some of you know that little town. It's a tiny little village. Everybody knows everybody and everybody's business in that little village. And I started taking ballet lessons, and I found myself a new piano teacher. His name was Albert Bowen, and he lived in the center of town in a tiny little apartment. And I would walk up to my lessons once a week after school. And in his little apartment, he had a grand piano and a clavichord and a harpsichord all in one room. And I remember practicing my Bach inventions at home on my piano and then being really thrilled to go and practice on his harpsichord to hear what it was supposed to really sound like. He was a good teacher. I had a wonderful time with him, and he was very supportive of me. When I was in the high school musical, I was cast in the role of Brigitte in sixth grade, and he came to see it, and he even wrote me a note of congratulations. It meant a lot to me. I stopped taking piano lessons from him at the age of 14 when I begged my parents to give me guitar lessons instead. What teenage girl doesn't want to play guitar instead of classical piano, right? So our house was a very happy family. We did all the typical things that girls do. We read a lot of books. We listened to Dave Brubeck records that my dad loved. We made music together. We stood around the piano and sang folk songs when my dad played the piano. Now, this was upstate New York, and it was the oil crisis time, and it was cold up there. And we would go cross-country skiing in the afternoon on paths that my dad had cleared in the woods, and we'd come back and huddle in front of the fire, all four of us girls, like trying to get the warm spot in the center, and then the dog, Bindi, would kind of snuggle over, and she'd push us out of the way, and she'd usually win the tug-of-war. So it was a good, normal, happy family life, and everything was pretty much normal until my senior year. And on April 1st of that year, my dad took me to a friend's house for a party, and then he went out for a run with our dog. And when the party was over, I called for a ride, and nobody answered at the house. So I was very confused. I didn't know where anybody was. So I think maybe one of my friend's parents gave me a ride home. I don't remember. But once we got to the house, I knew something was wrong. The dog was there, but my father was nowhere to be seen. My mother didn't know where he was. My little sister didn't know. And in time, over the next few hours, we learned that there had been a hit-and-run accident down the street, and that a man had been killed, and that was my father. And as you know, it was a small town and everybody knows everybody. And it turned out in the next few days that the man that had been driving the car was kicked out of 3 bars that night and was driving home drunk. And that man was Albert Bowen, my piano teacher. So it kind of threw our lives into a bit of an uproar, as you can imagine. Being a senior, I knew I needed to get my college applications done, but I couldn't imagine leaving my mom and my little sister because I was the oldest one at home. So I applied to Hamilton College, which is right in that town, and I went there, and it was a good place for me. That first year was really hard for my mom, and so after a year, when I was a sophomore in college, my mom took a job teaching biology in Turkey, and she had done that before, and she was invited to go back and work in a mission school and teach biology, and she took my little sister with her. So it was a great year for my mom. She kind of rediscovered how it felt to be alone, and my little sister learned how to belly dance on the school desks. It was great. But for me, I ended up moving into the family home, and we had some college students come and share the home with us, and I had to try and learn how to take care of the house and take care of myself. It was a hard year, and I felt very alone. That spring is when I saw the lie. I opened up the local newspaper, the Clinton Courier, and there was an article in that paper, and it said, Albert Bowen has returned from a successful concert tour of Europe and is accepting new students. I knew that couldn't be true. He should have been in jail, but he wasn't. But I couldn't imagine that he was touring Europe after what he had done. But I was 19 years old, and there was no place for me to challenge what he had to say. And there was no place for me to take my anger. So, thank you.